When someone asks you about your childhood and you hesitate for just a second too long. Not because it was all bad. Not because nothing happened. But because somewhere between being a kid and becoming an adult, time collapsed. Like entire chapters were skipped without your permission. You don't remember a clean transition. You remember responsibility showing up early. Quietly. No announcement. One day you were a child, and the next, you were expected to understand things most adults struggle with. This is what it looks like when childhood ends before it's supposed to. And it rarely looks dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. Making food for siblings while homework waits. Being the emotional buffer between parents. Learning how to read tension in a room before you learned long division. Figuring out how to stay useful so things don't fall apart. The strange thing is, when you grow up like this, no one pulls you aside and says, "This isn't fair." Instead, they say, "You're so mature for your age." And for a while, that feels like praise. But what they're really praising is adaptation. Psychologists call this parentification. It's when a child takes on emotional or practical responsibilities that belong to adults. But that word doesn't quite capture the weight of it. It doesn't describe what it feels like to be small and constantly alert. To feel responsible for outcomes you don't control. Researcher Dr. Lisa M. Hooper found that children who grow up this way often appear exceptionally capable. Calm in chaos. Reliable under pressure. But here's the part most people miss. That capability isn't maturity. It's a nervous system stuck in survival mode. What felt normal to you was often someone else's crisis. And the version of you that adapted to that environment didn't disappear when you grew up. It just learned to wear adult clothes. You probably became very good at certain things. Reading emotions instantly. Anticipating needs before they're spoken. Solving problems fast, because not solving them had consequences. You learned how to keep things running. Those skills look impressive on the outside. But they come with a cost that doesn't show up until much later. Here's the paradox. People who grew up too fast often handle major life challenges surprisingly well. Big decisions. Emergencies. Pressure. You can move through those almost automatically. But it's the small things that feel impossible. Asking for help. Resting without guilt. Being silly. Letting yourself be taken care of. Those feel unsafe. Not logically unsafe. Emotionally unsafe. Because early on, you learned something very specific. Your needs come second. Stability depends on you holding it together. If you relax, things might fall apart. You didn't just learn a lesson. You built an entire operating system around it. And that system is still running. In adulthood, this shows up in patterns. You're often the reliable one. The fixer. The person people turn to in a crisis. You're drawn to people who need support, guidance, saving. Not because you have a savior complex, but because being needed feels familiar. It feels like love. That was the form love took when you were young. Conditional. Functional. Earned through usefulness. So intimacy can feel complicated. Vulnerability feels like exposure. Even when you're safe, even when someone genuinely cares about you, there's a part of you that stays guarded. That part learned early that softness comes with risk. You may notice you're drawn to emotionally unavailable people. And before you judge yourself for that, understand this: unavailable feels familiar. It feels like home. Because home was a place where you gave a lot and received very little. When someone offers consistency, presence, care without conditions, it can feel unsettling. Like something is wrong. Like it won't last. Like you're waiting for it to disappear. There's also the issue of control. Not control in a dramatic or manipulative sense. But a deep, quiet need to manage variables. To plan. To anticipate. To overthink. Because unpredictability once meant chaos. It meant things breaking. It meant you having to step in and fix what shouldn't have been yours to fix. So you run scenarios. You prepare for outcomes that may never happen. People might call you anxious, perfectionistic, type A. But what they're really seeing is a child who learned that letting their guard down had consequences. The exhaustion that comes with this is real. The kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. That isn't laziness or weakness. It's what happens when your nervous system has been on high alert since childhood. Your body never learned what true rest feels like. Because rest didn't feel safe. There's another layer that's harder to talk about. Success. People who grew up too fast often achieve a lot. They're competent, independent, productive. And yet, it never feels like enough. There's always a voice saying, do more. Be better. Prove it. Because your worth got tangled with your usefulness a long time ago. And here's the cruel part. The world rewards this. Society loves people who grew up too fast. We get things done. We don't need much. We're low maintenance. But no one asks what it cost. Another thing you probably learned is emotional labor. You can manage tension in a room like it's second nature. Spot conflict before it surfaces. Smooth things over. Keep everyone comfortable. You do it automatically. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. And yet, you can be surrounded by people and still feel deeply alone. Not lonely in the obvious way. Alone in the sense that no one sees how much effort you're putting in to keep everything stable. Asking someone to notice feels wrong. Like admitting failure. Like you didn't do your job properly. So what do you do with all of this? How do you heal from something that doesn't feel like trauma because there wasn't one big moment? Just thousands of small ones. First, you grieve. Not dramatically. Honestly. You grieve the childhood you didn't get. The version of you who could have been messy, needy, irresponsible, and still loved. That child deserved care, not responsibility. Acknowledging that doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you truthful. Second, you learn something that goes against everything you were taught. Being needed is not the same as being valued. Your worth is not measured by how much you carry. You are not a human doing. You are a human being. And being is enough. You're allowed to rest. To not know. To fall apart sometimes. To receive without earning it first. And this part matters more than people admit. You're allowed to be a beginner at being taken care of. It doesn't matter how old you are. You never learned how to let someone else hold the weight. Of course it feels awkward now. Be patient with yourself as you learn. That child who grew up too fast did an incredible job. They were resourceful. Strong. Brave beyond measure. But they don't have to run the show anymore. It's safe to let someone else take a turn. It's safe to be young at heart, even if you're late to it. You've been holding on for a long time. What would it feel like to finally let go? If this resonated with you, subscribe. And if you want to support these deep psychological explorations, consider becoming a channel member. I genuinely appreciate your support.